Well, we might as well get started. It's clicked over 6:30. Well, hello and welcome. Um, sorry, I'm just playing around with my screen so I can see my slides. Make life easier tonight if I can see them. Here we go. As we're waiting for everyone to arrive, I just wanted to say hi and thank you for joining me tonight. I'm hoping to have a little bit of fun as well as this being an informative evening. Actually, if you want to jump on the chat and just let me know where you're all from. Like I'm here in Sydney and we've had an absolutely amazing sunny day today. It really feels like spring. And just be nice to learn a little bit more about you, see where you're all from. I was also pleasantly surprised when I was looking at the registration. I could see some names, some very familiar names, and I could also see some unfamiliar names on the registration list. So if you've worked with me before, please, say hi and let me know you're here. And if you're new, please maybe jot in new so I can see that tonight is your first night you've attended one of my events. It's just nice to know, who's out tonight. And Violetta, welcome from Melbourne. And you're new. Ah, fantastic. Well, hopefully you have a wonderful night tonight. But I also wanted to let you know I have prizes for participating tonight. So let's all interact, have a fun night, and let's get started. So let me just see if I've got this. Yes, I do. I'm Jennifer Harrington. What most people know about me is that I'm a naturopath with over 20 years of clinical experience. I'm an author, podcaster, and practitioner. But what you don't know about me is that perimenopause kicked my butt. It was mentally, emotionally, physically exhausting. And fatigue is a symptom. It's not a disease, but it's a sign that something more serious is going on. And in my case, it was flooding periods due to a fibroid. I actually lost more than half of my blood supply. That's how heavy my periods were. As a single mum, my daughter became my carer as I struggled to function. Luckily, it was during the COVID lockdown and I didn't have much to do. Unluckily, it was during COVID lockdown as I couldn't get the help that I needed. Eventually, I ended up in the emergency room. I needed not one, but two blood transfusions, plus an iron infusion, and my surgery was upgraded from elective to essential, which in Australia meant I could actually have it. But for me, it wasn't just about the fatigue. It was also the added burden I'd placed on my teenage daughter, who now had to care for me and run the household. And fatigue doesn't usually occur by itself. It likes company. In my case, I couldn't concentrate. I was dizzy, short of breath. I had muscle pain, brain fog, palpitations, angina, and more. But I'm so grateful to tell you that my surgery was a success. My fatigue resolved, and my daughter's burden was removed as I resumed my daily tasks. Since this time, I've discovered 15 reasons why midlife women feel so fatigued, and that's what we're going to be covering tonight. So I have a poll. Let's see if I can get this up and running. Polls. Here we go. Launch. All right. So we only have a small group tonight. So let's get all involved. As the more you put in, the more you're really going to get out of tonight. And what we're looking at here is just three questions. The first one is looking at how severe your fatigue is. The second one is looking at what other accompanying symptoms you had. And the third and the final question is looking at how long fatigue has been going on for you. So, excuse me. I'm going to continue on and we'll come back to the results in a minute. Like it shouldn't take too long. It's only three questions. All right. That is the poll. All right. So, what is fatigue? Fatigue is a feeling of constant tiredness or weakness. It can be mental, physical, or both. Although fatigue is a constant, it can ebb and flow, giving you good days and bad days. But as a general rule, it interferes with your ability to perform day to day tasks. Fatigue is a symptom. It is not a disease itself, but it can be an indication that something more serious is going on. To reduce the sensation of fatigue, we first need to consider what personal underlying cause or causes you have and correct these first. So, guys, if you want to take any photos tonight or screen capture, this is probably a good screen to capture. So, common causes of midlife fatigue. We've got poor mitochondrial function, impaired cellular health, hormonal changes, adrenal dysfunction, thyroid dysfunction, poor sleep, blood sugar imbalances, chronic inflammation, digestive issues, liver function issues, cardiovascular weaknesses, respiratory weaknesses, immune issues, mood issues, and nutritional deficiencies. So, guys, this is what we're going to be covering tonight. And you can see it's a long list and it's not relevant for everyone, but it's important to consider all of these in case they're a part of your symptom picture. So, my aim for this workshop is to help you identify some of the low hanging fruit so you can make changes there first. And if it resolves your fatigue, fantastic. But if it doesn't, you will have an understanding of what else can be driving this sensation and help direct you where to go next. So, fatigue can happen at any stage of life. This is another one, actually, if you are screen capturing, that you might want to grab. So, yes, fatigue can happen at any stage of life, but it's really, really common now at midlife with changing hormonal levels and with the increased demands for life. The Adrenal study, which is actually the largest menopause study that we've done so far, it's 100,000 women, and they found that 81.5% of midlife women experience fatigue. Like, wow, that's high. That blows my mind. It's so high. Plus, fatigue doesn't occur by itself. It likes company and is often accompanied by other symptoms such as poor motivation, inability to concentrate, impaired decision making, reduced memory and cognitive abilities, poor coordination, sleepiness, irritable moods, headaches, muscle pain, dizziness, nausea, and the list goes on. And I can definitely put my hand up for most of those when I was going through my issues. So let's go back and check the poll and see what you guys said. So from the results, I can see that most of your fatigue is really extreme, that we've got about 30% at 6 to 7, about 30% at 8 to 9, and we've even got more than 30% at 10 out of 10. So just to make sure, 0 was no fatigue and 10 was extreme fatigue. So you guys are all up the far end of the spectrum. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Let's see if we can get some ideas and some suggestions for you so that you can start coming back up the other end and having more abundant energy. So there was that one. So how long has it been an issue? For most of you, it's been a few months. It's a medium issue. That was about 70% of you, with 30% of you at moderate a few years. And this just blows my mind. Like when I had my issues, we're talking about maybe 6 months that it was a problem. It certainly wasn't years. And I really feel for you. I know what it's like to be closer to the 10 out of 10 spectrum, but I wasn't there for long. So yes, let's really give you some ideas. And please, I want this to be interactive tonight. So as we go through, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to go through things as they happen. And then with the other symptoms, yeah, you guys have got lots of other symptoms. So 50% of you said poor motivation. 50% of you said inability to concentrate. 50% said impaired decision-making skills. 75% of you said reduced memory. 100% of you all have issues with sleep. 100% all have issues with moods. 50% with headaches. 75% with pain, with muscle joint pain. 50% dizziness and 25% nausea. So I can see that you guys, it's not just fatigue, it's multiple other symptoms. All right, let's just get rid of that and we'll come back here. All right, so let's start examining some of the possible causes. And the first one I want to discuss today is mitochondria. Hopefully you guys remember the mitochondria from high school biology. So we're going to have a look at how the body actually creates energy without getting too sciencey. So the Krebs cycle is a metabolic pathway that occurs from within the mitochondria. This converts nutrient molecules from food into energy. Think of it as the powerhouse of the cell. Every cell in your body contains between 500 and 5,000 mitochondria. And this is where your main form of energy, adenosine triphosphate, or you might remember it as ATP, is made. So the Krebs cycle requires many nutrients to actually produce ATP. So things like B1, B2, B3, B5, and lipoic acid, but it also requires additional cofactors to produce ATP. And these just help promote better mitochondrial function. So we're looking at things like CoQ10, vitamin A, vitamin B6, B9, B12, vitamin C, D, E, some amino acids, some fish oil in your omega-3, your electrolytes, and some other minerals. So you can see that nutritional deficiencies really slow down the production of ATP and leave you feeling exhausted. But don't see this as a shopping list. So guys, please don't write these all down. This is not your shopping list. My goal is not to get you to buy all the nutrients mentioned tonight. Otherwise, you'll have over 20 products, and that's certainly not my goal. It's more just to show you how important good nutrition is. So we can get a lot of these nutrients through our food. And in some cases, we may need to supplement, but we can also test so we can prioritize which ones we're getting rather than getting them all. Don't get them all. All right, the next one is cellular health. I don't know if you remember this from high school either, but every cell in your body, and there are about 37 trillion of them, contain a cellular membrane. And that's what we can see here in the picture. So within the cell, you have different organelles, such as the mitochondria that we just discussed. And these organelles also have cellular membranes. The mitochondria, if we go back, oh, wrong way, actually has two cellular membranes. You can see the inner and the outer membrane there. So cellular health, cellular membrane health is even more important for mitochondria. And I want you to think of the cellular membranes as being the cellular brain because they actually control a lot of what is happening for the cell or for the organelle. They allow nutrients in and toxins out. They are also a storehouse for nutrients. They provide structure and a communication channel. You must have a properly functioning cellular membrane if you want a happy cell. And within the cellular membrane is a phospholipid bilayer. So in technical terms, phospholipids are a class of lipids whose molecule has a water-loving head, which we can see in this picture is yellow, that contains a phosphate group. And the phosphate group can be modified with simple organic molecules like choline and inositol. And these attach to water-fearing tails derived from fatty acids. And this is the blue in the middle. And these tails typically contain your omega-3, so things like EPA and DHA. And the change modifiers, whether it's an EPA or a DHA or whether it's choline, this gives a phospholipid their different properties, their preferred locations, and their roles within a cell. So data suggests that phospholipid reductions start around the age of 20. So by midlife, I'm certainly older than 20, your cells might be in need of a top-up. And certain genes play a role here. And one important one to mention is PEMP. If you have this polymorphism, it means that you have difficulty creating phosphatidylcholine. Phosphatidylcholine is the most abundant phospholipid. It's essential for cellular membrane integrity and function. Now, for all the women who wrote accompanying brain symptoms, things like concentration, memory, there's a phospholipid called phosphatidylserine. And serine has an affinity for brain cells. So it likes to be in the cellular membrane of your brain cells. So those women, you may just want to consider whether phosphatidylserine or phosphatidylcholine are potentially beneficial for you. Again, it's not a shopping list. It's more a consideration to chat to your healthcare team and just say, look, is this an option for me? The hormonal dance. So what we've got here in front of us on the screen. So the little butterfly-shaped one is your thyroid. In the middle, we have the female reproductive system with the uterus and the ovaries and the fallopian tubes. And on the other side, what we've got is our kidneys or our renals, and the walnut-shaped gland on top of them is your adrenals. So ad on top of the renals, adrenals. So that's just showing you what's on the picture. So in perimenopause, it's when your ovaries start preparing for retirement. This is a time of change, and during this time, your levels of ovarian hormones, such as estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, also change. As these hormones dance with other hormones, a change here can have a snowball effect with all the other hormones. You see, no hormone works in isolation. The main hormones impacted are from the adrenals and the thyroid, but this is actually a three-way street where changes in either ovarian, adrenal, or thyroid hormones interacts and complicates the production and usage of the other hormones. The adrenal glands are linked with stress. They produce your stress hormones, adrenaline and noradrenaline. These hormones are needed for your fight or flight response. They also produce cortisol, which controls your sleep and wake circadian rhythm, which is also a part of your stress response. Then there is aldosterone, which plays a major role in regulating your electrolytes, your pH balance, and your blood pressure. Have you noticed your blood pressure increase with stress? It can also increase due to lower estrogen levels, impacting on your aldosterone response. Finally, we have the adrenal androgens such as DHEA. These are precursor substances for the production of testosterone and estrogen after the ovaries have retired. When your adrenal glands aren't optimally working, you are easily stressed. Sleep becomes a problem. Add to this an electrolyte imbalance, and you will get the sensation of fatigue. And this is where stress management techniques, electrolyte replenishment, you'll hear me say that a few times tonight. That's a favorite of mine, electrolyte replenishment, and adrenal nutrients and herbal tonics can make a world of difference. Your thyroid gland regulates the body's metabolic rate. Your metabolic rate refers to the amount of energy your body needs to maintain itself. I think of the thyroid gland as being a spark plug. It ignites your body to produce energy. And without a well-tuned thyroid, you definitely experience changes in your energy levels. Thyroid dysfunction is unfortunately very common in midlife women. Roughly 1 in 12 perimenopausal women have issues, and this increases to 1 in 6 for postmenopausal women. When it comes to thyroid health, this is an area I highly recommend thorough testing. And if your results indicate an issue, please work one-on-one with a healthcare provider to help you optimize its function, because it's going to make a world of difference for you. Sleep. If we go back to the Evernow study, sleep was the second one. So 78.6% of women experience sleep disruption, and poor sleep certainly can promote fatigue. So, how does hormonal change affect sleep? Having lower levels of estrogen and progesterone is linked to reduced melatonin levels and poorer sleep. Melatonin is a sleep hormone. Studies indicate there are 4 different ways that lower hormones impact on your sleep. Lower melatonin levels reduce total sleep time, reducing deep sleep, increasing the time taken to get to sleep, and also increasing the number of times you wake during the night. Hormonal changes alter your sleep architecture. This is how you move through your different sleep cycles. Lower hormone levels increase the risk of sleep apnea, disordered breathing. Sorry, lower hormone levels increase the risk of sleep disordered breathing, such as sleep apnea. Hormonal changes can promote night sweats and increase the total number of sleep interruptions experienced through the night. So please note that not all women experience sleep disturbances at midlife, but with the audience we have today, 100% of you said that you were struggling with sleep. And what we can find is that it's something that um, there are so many other factors that can help with sleep. So I've just said all doom and gloom stuff about lower hormones, but the good news is there are so many dietary and lifestyle factors that play significant roles in improving sleep. And where I would generally start is testing for sleep apnea. It's something that I recommend for all women experiencing fatigue and having night sweats and having sleeping issues. That seems to be the trifecta of sleep apnea. Well, sleep apnea causes so many other problems, but if you are having night sweats, you can't sleep, and you're fatigued, it's definitely something to consider. And it's an easy test these days. No longer do you have to go and book yourself into a sleep clinic. These days, you can hire out machines from your local chemist and do it at home. And I really love that because it's your bed, it's your pillow, it's everything that you normally have for your night's sleep. And then the next day, you just take it back to the chemist and they get a sleep doctor to analyze it and send you a report. So it's really easy. My one cost me $100, so it's not particularly expensive. You can occasionally get it done on Medicare, depending on your GP. So something something to consider. Blood sugar issues. So with the reduction of estrogen also comes an increased risk of blood sugar irregularities and type 2 diabetes. Unfortunately, 1 in 3 women postmenopausally will develop type 2 diabetes, as estrogen supports the pathways that regulate insulin and blood sugar levels. Therefore, this function automatically diminishes as the hormone levels drop. But estrogen isn't the only culprit here. Cortisol also plays a significant role. As a part of the stress response, cortisol releases sugar into the blood to fuel the body to run from stresses. But if we don't run, if we don't burn off this extra sugar, we end up with persistent high blood sugar levels that can lead to the development of type 2 diabetes. Remember when we were talking about the Krebs cycle using nutrient molecules from food to produce ATP energy? When sugar enters the cell, it's one of the main nutrient molecules. When we have low sugar, our cell is out of substrate, it's out of fuel. It can't produce ATP. So we feel tired, hungry, irritable, and weak. When our blood sugar levels are persistently high, our body stops producing or stops responding to insulin. And it's insulin's job to open the cell door so sugar can come in. When insulin isn't there or the cell isn't responding to it, the cell is once again out of fuel. So there's 2 things here. It can be a blood sugar problem or it can be an insulin problem. And the best way to find out is with comprehensive testing. So this is again something that I recommend for all women at midlife, is to find out what your fasting blood sugar levels are doing. Maybe check out a HbA1c, which is looking at a 3-month average of your blood sugar readings, and also looking at a fasting insulin level, just to see how that's all going for you. So the next one is chronic inflammation. So a common complaint during the menopausal transition is increased inflammation and pain. In the Evernow study, Here we go. In the Adrenal study, they found that 63.6% of participants felt an increase in joint and muscle discomfort. These women are also noticing a reduced anti-inflammatory effect of estrogen and progesterone. Oh, I've gone too far. As these hormones decline. It has been proposed that chronic low-grade inflammation reduces cellular energy availability while increasing energy expenditure, creating an energy shortage. Inflammation also increases reactive oxygen species, and these promote DNA damage and reduce insulin sensitivity, creating blood sugar issues. Sleep disturbances also increase inflammation and perpetuate the cycle of fatigue. The good news is that we have plenty of natural anti-inflammatories at our disposal. We have things like thermotherapy, which is the application of hot and cold. We have fire extinguishing oils like fish oils and beautiful herbs like turmeric. Next is digestion. As we age, our production of digestive enzymes and acids reduce. This means our ability to digest food reduces, and we may not be able to extract the nutrients from our food as efficiently as before, increasing our risk of nutritional deficiencies. Gut bacteria imbalances can also be linked with fatigue. Different strains can either have an inflammatory or an anti-inflammatory effect on the bowel. And as mentioned before, inflammation promotes fatigue by several different mechanisms. And now we have the liver. With the reduction of estrogen comes changes within the liver itself. Data has suggested that liver function starts to reduce at about 1% a year starting at perimenopause. Now, this really doesn't surprise me when you consider what your liver has had to process over a lifetime. Like the average woman is exposed to hundreds of chemicals every day. She may be carrying around toxic metal burden from a previous exposure. She may be living in a water damaged, mold filled home. She may drink alcohol. She may smoke cigarettes. She may live in a busy city with poor air quality. I think we can all agree our poor liver has had a very busy life. Fatigue is just one sign that it may be overwhelmed or performing sluggishly. The less burden we put on our liver, the better chances it has at performing well. For me, this starts with our environment, moving out of moldy homes, replacing personal care products and cleaning products with chemical-free alternatives, eating as much organic food as you can afford, filtering your water, filtering your air, rethinking perfume and fragrances. Cardiovascular issues. Estrogen plays a protective role in the health of our heart and cardiovascular system. As our estrogen levels start to decline, our cardiovascular complications increase. The job of the cardiovascular system is to transport nutrient and hormones around the body while removing waste products. Fatigue can be a sign of cardiovascular issues as less blood and nourishment are circulated through your body. It can also occur as waste products aren't being adequately removed. It's really interesting to note that the heart contains the largest concentration of mitochondria. It has about 5,000 mitochondria per heart cell. So think back to all those nutrients that the mitochondria needed, because these also greatly benefit the heart. It's two birds with one stone. And by increasing the health of these powerhouses, you improve the health of your heart and the ability of the cardiovascular system to supply the goods. Respiratory issues. So the role of the respiratory system is to provide oxygen for the body and to remove carbon dioxide. As mentioned in the sleep section, estrogen and progesterone have a protective role to play against sleep disordered breathing, as these hormones reduce our risk of as the hormones reduce, our risk of sleep apnea increases. But what we haven't discussed is the role of progesterone as a respiratory stimulant. Progesterone is at the highest during pregnancy. When you're pregnant, your blood supply needs to double. So more oxygen is required to oxygenate the blood. And the progesterone from the pregnancy promotes this increased respiration, which means that as our progesterone levels reduce with menopause, some women experience more respiratory symptoms and have lower lung function. And shortness of breath is one of the lesser common symptoms of menopause. So, breathing exercise is really valuable here and is really good at helping to improve the function of the lungs, but also the amount of oxygen, the oxygenation of your blood supply. So, keep that in mind. The immune system. So, acute infections do make you feel tired, but this is short lived and your energy should return to normal afterwards. Whereas chronic viral infections are different. And it is thought that about 95% of the population has been exposed to one of the herpes family of viruses. Now, there's about 8 of them. There's Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, varicocele virus, cold sores, it's quite a large family. And this virus lays dormant in the body until it has an opportunity to reactivate itself. Unfortunately, hormonal change with menopause is one such opportunity. Some women are experiencing viral flares and mistaking this as menopausal symptoms. So, chronic viral flares can cause fatigue. They can cause achy joints. They can cause night sweats, headaches, digestive issues, behavioral changes, mood changes, nerve pain, burning sensation, rashes, itches. In this case, it's far better for you to work on reducing your viral load and improving your immunity rather than playing around with your hormones. And fatigue can also be a sign of autoimmunity. Mood disorders. Bad thoughts can pull us down and drag our energy levels down with it. It is thought that over 90% of women with mood disorders experience fatigue at the same time. It may be due to changing your sleep habits. Both insomnia and oversleeping are common with mood disorders. It may be because your eating habits have changed and many are choosing comfort foods at this time. It may be due to a change in exercise routine or even just a lack of joy or social activities that are dragging you down. All right, so let's stop here for a minute. I know that I have just thrown a lot of information at you. So it's just time to check in, see how you're all going, see if anyone has any questions, how you're doing out there. It's also worth writing in the chat box if you have some ideas about why you might be feeling so fatigued and which of these reasons are resonating the most with you and where do you want some more information. Is anyone still there? No questions, you're all good? Ah, Lana's asking how to get a better night's sleep. So I guess it really depends on what the sleep issue is. If it's that you can't get to sleep, is it that you're waking during the night? Is it that you're waking really early and it's like 4 a.m. and you're ready to start the day and really you need to get a bit of extra sleep? Feel free to answer that. I'll just talk about general sleep information. So, yeah, waking at 3 or 4. So sometimes if you are waking earlier than you normally would, like for me, if I wake up at 4 a.m., I'm not quite ready to start my day, but also by the time it takes me to get back to sleep, it's time for me to get up. So that's a really horrible situation to be in, Lana. And it can be a cortisol issue. It can be that your body is anticipating the stress of the day and waking much sooner. So I would start by looking at, is there anything going on that you're stressed or anxious about? And how can we reduce your stress or your anxiety levels? Can it be some lifestyle things like going for a walk? Can it be doing some yoga or Pilates? Can it be having an Epsom salt bath before bed so that you're nice and relaxed prior to going to sleep and hoping that the stress response doesn't kick in overnight? Magnesium is a beautiful mineral that can help. It's very relaxing. It's not a sedative, so it won't put you to sleep, but it just helps your body relax. That can be quite useful, but also depends what's happening in your bedroom. Is there any disturbances happening at that time? Is there any lights or is there any noise? Um, yeah, there's hopefully I've given you some ideas there, Lana. I would start with what stress management techniques can you add in and what can you do prior to bed? So I can remember an interview on my podcast with a yoga instructor, and she spoke about legs up the wall prior to bed. So she would put her legs up the wall, wiggle her bottom in as far as she can, obviously without being painful. She would open up her arms and lay back and just focus on some deep breathing. Ah, sorry, it's just told me my reception dropped out. Um, I'll come back to that point, Deborah. Talking about the yoga and the legs up the wall, she was suggesting even as little as 5 minutes just to turn on the relaxation response prior to going to bed. That could be something else that you can try. And Deborah, what I think I might have been talking about when talking about the GP was maybe the sleep apnea testing. Because sleep apnea, you can do two ways. You can go to your GP and get a referral and do an in clinic, or they can also still give you the referral form to get it done at home. Or a lot of chemists these days rent out polysomal machines, which are the sleep apnea testing machines that you take home. So if your GP does put it on Medicare, great. My GP wouldn't, and I know a lot of other women who couldn't get it. And in that case, you better just to pay it's only $100. It's not in the thousands. I think that might have been what I was talking about when it dropped out. I'm sorry. Um, all right. So to be honest with fatigue, it's generally not one thing. It's generally a collection of factors. Now, one of my promises with this event was to help you create a plan. Start feeling more energy within 7 days. So, who's up for this? Yep. All right. Let's move on. So, here we go. So, I'm not sure if you noticed, but out of my 15 reasons, I missed out nutrients. And this is because for me, it is the most important. As a practitioner, I always start with nutrients, especially vitamins and minerals, as your body can't produce these. And we want to make sure we have adequate amounts, otherwise, deficiencies occur. Like if we look at iron as an example, if you don't have enough iron, you get anemia. And if you're anemic, nothing apart from iron is going to fix it. So we need to think of all of these nutrients and minerals that are essential and make sure that we're getting them all in our diet or in some cases supplement. So does anyone know what my favorite group of minerals for energy production is? All right. These are a good example. Definitely, Julie. They're in my top five, maybe top three. Um, It's electrolytes. It's electrolytes. So, electrolytes are minerals that carry an electrical charge. This conduction of electricity allows for information to be passed from cell to cell, relaying information around the body. And the body's form of energy currency is called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, as we just discussed before. So, electrolytes do not directly contain ATP, but they are essential cofactors needed for the production, the usage, and the recycling of ATP. And aside from fatigue, other signs that you may be low in electrolytes include muscle cramps, headaches, confusion, irritability, palpitations, dizziness, nausea, or poor sleep. Like, I can put my hand up for most of those when I was in a bad way. Definitely. And having low electrolyte levels is really, really common in midlife. This is especially the case if, like me, you had experienced really heavy menstrual bleeds, or if you're at the other end of the spectrum and you're experiencing excessive sweating from either hot flushes or night sweats, as you're losing these precious minerals in your menstrual fluid and in your sweat. So many people know the link between adrenal dysfunction and fatigue, but have you considered the role of electrolytes, especially sodium, in the role of adrenal issues? Sodium plays a crucial role in the production and regulation of these hormones. So hormones like cortisol and adrenaline and noradrenaline and aldosterone, which we were mentioning before. So without adequate sodium levels, these hormones rise. And with this comes a sensation of feeling stressed and frazzled and fatigued and unable to sleep. And the urges to urinate increase, promoting nighttime urination and even more poor sleep. So some of the health complaints associated with low electrolytes are also linked with low hydration, as two very important electrolytes, sodium and potassium, are needed to regulate how much water is kept in or pushed out of cells. And this helps to maintain hydration and prevents fluid retention. So fluid balancing also plays a very important role in regulating blood pressure. So our nerve cells use electrolytes to carry electrical pulses or messages around the body. Without adequate levels, our muscles cannot contract and relax properly, and cramps and twitches or tingling can occur. So, my 7-day electrolyte challenge. Has anyone already tried this? Has anyone heard me talk about this before and has potentially tried it at home? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. I'd love to know whether you felt a difference, because it's not something that everybody needs, but it's something that most women significantly, well, I would say that about 90% of women that I've mentioned this to who have tried it have liked it. Yeah, so with this, we are looking for a clean electrolyte. So I'm not looking at some fluorescent pre-made electrolyte that you're getting from the fridge at the supermarket. What we're looking for is a clean product. So no sugar, no colors, no flavors, no preservatives. And I want you to take 1 dose a day for 7 days. So how I do it, I personally do my electrolytes with ginger and lemon. But I'm a bit lazy. I don't get up there and grate my ginger every day. I get an ice cube tray and I get my ginger and I grate it into the ice cube tray. I then pour water in the top and freeze it. So then in the morning, I crack out an ice cube. I put some freshly squeezed lemon and I pour some boiling water in the top. And I've saved myself a few minutes. So that's basically how I take it. You might choose to just take the electrolytes in water. That's also fine. Now, I should let you know, if your doctor has personally told you to be on a low potassium or a low sodium diet, you should really chat to them before you try this. But for everybody else, give it a go. Like I said, about 90% of women that I've suggested it to have got back to me to tell me they feel good. They maybe think clearer, have more energy, less muscle cramps, sleeping better, improved moods, less dizziness, less nausea. That's some of the main feedback I hear about the electrolytes. So then a lot of women say, well, what happens after the 7 days? So if after 7 days you're one of the 10% that haven't noticed any change, then stop. Well done. You're already well hydrated and congratulations. If you're in the 90% of people that go, well, actually, I do feel different, then keep going. Don't stop at the end of the 7 days. Keep going. And especially being here in Australia, we've got spring and summer coming up. You might want to continue taking electrolytes all the way through until maybe autumn. And it all just depends. So I've got some questions here. Yeah, you could put your electrolytes in a lemon or a ginger tea. That's fine. I've got no problems with that. If you don't like the taste of lemon or ginger, you can have the electrolyte on its own. Or you could try lime. You could pop it into a juice. I'm not a massive fan of juices just because of the sugar content in them. But if you're making up a smoothie, you could chuck it into that. Um, you could put it really in any flavor tea. It will change the taste of it. It'll make it a bit more saltier. Try. If you find an absolute winner, please let me know so I can share it with everyone else. Yeah, so with the electrolytes, what I'm hoping is for a positive change in the right direction. It's more of a starting point, why you consider and investigate the other possibilities. So you might consider taking some of these ideas and speaking to your doctor or naturopath or other member of your healthcare team. Um, if you're looking for a practitioner, you could consider working with me. I work with women in multiple ways. I have my podcast, which is free if you just want a bit more information. I have a book, From Invisible to Invincible: The Natural Menopause Revolution. I do webinars like tonight, and I also do one-on-one consultations.